Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you all are making the most of the vibrant exchange of ideas that we've been having through the sessions in the morning. And this panel marks a distinctive departure from the tradition where we talk to IT leaders about technology. Today, we're going to be talking to these great minds sharing the stage with me about business, strategy, leadership, and career progression. Now, it's a resounding truism that technology is enjoying the golden spotlight of opportunity today. And during the pandemic, organizations saw they couldn't have done it without technology factor come into play. So now, more than ever, the CIOs need to adopt the rigor and practice of a business strategist. Now, most CIOs know that, but do they really know how to go about it? That's something we'll try and unpack with this elite group of IT and business leaders with us on stage today. So I'd like to start off with you, Shrikant. The digital transformation has slowly but steadily advanced the cause of a much sought after but much delayed concept of a business oriented CIO. One who's well entrenched in the operations, the customer experience, revenue generation, the enablement of new business models. So what are some of the ways in which CIOs should reimagine their approach to business, operations, and technology innovation to take on that role?
Sure. No, I can take this from a banking perspective. So I come from Deutsche Bank. So I think one of the things that I'm being forced to look at all the time is really around the concept of saying, okay, what problem am I solving? I mean, this is not about throwing technology just for the sake of technology, right? I mean, I'll give you two examples of this. I think one is from a banking standpoint, what data can do and what technology can do is really around reducing risk and risk from a banking standpoint. I mean, we're talking about KYC operations, being able to actually look at who are your customers, what sort of antecedents do they have, are they allowed to trade on a particular platform? And the second part is really transaction monitoring, right? I mean, we're doing a lot of stuff using technology in terms of saying, how do you actually detect fraud? I mean, can you actually look at patterns and things like that? So every technology that I throw at the business, they want either to see a reduction in risk and more control, okay, or they're looking at value. I have to figure out how to do this. I have to be entrenched in the business, and I can't look at it as a technologist. I have to look at it as a business person.
Right, absolutely. So you brought into focus this fact that the CIO needs to be a problem solver at the end of the day. Business comes first, technology comes second. You reverse the order, and your organization is in trouble. Right? Now, I'd like to move on to Kavita. Kavita, let's pivot over to talk about the business priorities. Has anything shifted up your list of priorities over the last 2 years? What have been some of the aspects and elements of digital strategy that has now become your focus versus 2 years ago?
Right. So, Sneha, first of all, I'd like to reiterate that it's not, you cannot have a business and an IT priorities work in silos. They have to be aligned, right? So traditionally we had IT focusing more on modernizing, upgrading, those kind of functions. And business, of course, had its commercial goals. Right now we are at a stage where we need to understand that we need to recommend to the business what are the IT portfolios they need to invest so that they can keep abreast with the business and achieve the strategy or the goals that they have. So we need to pick and choose from what is available and recommend to business that these are the investments you need to make so as to keep updating the market and also align your strategy along with that. So I think, as you rightly said, that things have changed. It is no longer that you work in silos. You need to align. Coming up with the technologies that we are right now coming up this thing and we are focusing on is of course the customer experience. We are also focusing on automation, because the COVID era has taught us that, there are some functions which do not require people to do it. They can be automated and we can do it at a much cheaper cost. And third is the analytics part. We have collected a huge amount of data, but whether this data is actually kind of helping us make intelligent decisions. So, and this data is lying across the cloud, across the various landscapes. So how do we bring it on a single platform and kind of derive some intelligence out of it? So these are the three priorities which have kind of come up in this era.
Thank you. Thank you, Kavita, for giving us a sneak peek into your technology roadmap for the future. How are you enabling some of these? I think it has to be a very good balance of business enabling technologies as well as business differentiating technologies, as you pointed out. And so then the CIO really has to think ahead of business, but still sit behind business to then work as a trusted business ally, observe how the business functions operate, get a 360-degree view of the enterprise, the business functions within the enterprise, and yet think ahead in terms of the market forces and how the technology landscape is responding in response to the business landscape, right? Now, I'd like to move on to Mr. Simli. Mr. Simli, at Passport Seva program, what are the ways in which you are redefining these services, customer experience and operations? Because customer experience is the key wherever you go, and even when it comes to government services, people don't want to have a compromised substandard experience. So what are some of the ways in which you're trying to put the pieces of this jigsaw puzzle together?
Thank you, Sanya. Thank you for having me here. Uh, at the outset, let me start with saying that when we are conceptualizing the Passport Seva program at large, I think there are three factors which are hovering around our mind. The first factor was the perception. Perception, the legacy, if I see, perception were out of reach. So we wanted to change that perception for an average citizen of India. The second factor was, we always say, can we lay the red tape for educated or let's say bureaucracy or let's say senior people. So we wanted to cut the red tape for average citizens of India. That was the second factor which we were working on our mind. The third factor was the legacy. You must understand the legacy and try to kind of conceptualize holistically end to end. When I say end to end, I think right from your stakeholders to citizens to technology, so every bit of it. And when we are walking on those three directions, I think the other four factors which are playing a very important role, we wanted to be responsive. As a government system, we must respond to citizens, right? So today you tweet me, I'll respond for, I'll act for, right? The second factor was proactive. Whether it was a COVID scenario, I was dealing with almost 190 global embassies. I was dealing all the citizens in India, and that is the time I think you all as a citizens were looking for us the kind of help in terms of having a passport in right time, right place, anytime, anywhere. So responding, how you respond proactively, or during even the Ukraine crisis, the way the vacation happened, the way I could able to validate, verify the citizens so that we can vacate immediately, move to a particular flight or particular direction, so whatever it is. So we are proactive. The third factor was we are citizen friendly. Today I am trying to deliver services wherever you are, whichever place you are. I do not differentiate whether you are applying in Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, or somebody at a remote village of Jharkhand, UP, or Bihar. I do not differentiate, right? And the last factor was we are continuously trying to be innovative, and which I probably suggest every one of us. I think we need to innovate more and more and more. I think these were the 5, 6, 7 factors which we are working around. We are continuously working. And the change which we are experiencing, it is not me I am saying, it is my citizens are saying. So that's how I put it. Thank
Right.
you.
So you have a much larger task at hand because you're servicing the citizens of the country. Like you said, your services have to be highly available, responsive, location agnostic. You have to cater to citizens across the length and breadth of the country. Very valid points. Now, I'd like to move on to Mahua. Mahua, you know what they say, influence scales, but power doesn't. So traditionally, CIOs have had this problem around creating their influence within the organization, the credibility factor. Now that's become a lot easier. We've taken several leaps towards that. But how do you think CIOs can use the art of storytelling for better influence and also for better stakeholder management?
Thanks for that question. Anybody from technology, we have always heard growing up that, okay, techies can't talk. Techies are just heads down coder. That has changed, and I don't think that that has changed because we have changed. I think that has changed because the requirement of the business has changed. Today, techies are no longer coding only. We are actually doing much more in the sense we are influencers. We have to influence the rest of the business because one, technology is now driving the change, driving the business transformation, contrary to how it was before. Two, before the technologists were all seated within the CIO's organization. Today it has completely changed. In Mashrek, for example, we have technology teams seated with the businesses. So now the CIO, in order to drive this, has to influence the businesses in order to bring the change that he or she wants to bring. So it is the circumstances, the environment, which has made us change, and the CIO has become more part of the business transformation, and we drive decision making rather than how we were before.
Right. So it's all about adapting at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing in that thought. Now, Mr. Pandey, as we see CIOs move above and beyond IT roles, how do you think they can strike a balance between being a strategic advisor, a trusted ally to the business, an integrator, an ecosystem player, and an innovator? How do you think you can juggle all of those roles? Because each of them has great demands.
So first of all, excellent answer, Mohua. That is something which we are getting into, right? As CIOs, we have to do a lot of talking now. We have to do those elevator pitch because time is scarce. We have to be ready and prepared with the right kind of data when we are speaking. So if I'm speaking to my MD or GM or sales partners, right? I need to be aware that what is actually happening in the ground, and it has got nothing to do with technology, by the way. I need to know that what is happening in sales. I need to know that what is happening in supply chain, how commodity pricings are behaving in the market, because it is impacting my business, and how I can bring in technology. So first of all, the awareness, the outside awareness. And when I'm saying about outside awareness, the same goes for ETCIO forum where we interact with each other. So we have to have that outside awareness. And second is around that bringing the right point at the right time, and that too politely. So those are the keys, that you are not rubbing it on the face. You are saying that, maybe you can do it better if you use this side of technology, this way of technology. And it takes a lot of time for business people to make investments. The technologies is considered as investment, right? And then there is the payback period. People lose interest within 6 months, 8 months of time. So you have to be very clear when you're making those convincing talks. And that is why the art of storytelling and these all things have to come together and merge in.
Absolutely. Now, Kavita, I'd like to understand from you, digital is more of an outside-in view, and technology is an inside-out view. So this is something new for the CIO, a new skill that he needs to acquire. How do you think they should go about, understanding the market forces, the need for customer experience? Because customer experience is traditionally not a domain that the CIO has been handling. So how does he step up to the plate to then get closer to the customer, the ecosystem players? Traditionally, the CIOs have always dealt with the end users within the company, but how do you deal with the end users outside the company? How do you balance all of that?
So with the changing role of an IT leader or CIO, as we had earlier discussed, that it is very important that we network. We network on 3 fronts. We network within the leadership community, IT CIO community, so that we understand what is happening and what are the modern technologies which are coming up, the emerging technologies. So we keep a vigilant focus on that so that we are able to recommend. The second is within the business. So within the business, it's very important for us to know that what are the challenges, what is the strategy, so if we keep a focus on that, we will be able to kind of propose better solutions. And the third is on the IT partnership, wherein we have these IT partners who are able to deliver the solutions that we are proposing to business. So which is the right partner to choose, because you land up with a wrong partner, you will not be able to deliver. So we need to kind of focus on all three fronts, internal, external, and within the community, so as to drive a solution which is delivering on the business goals.
Right. I think that's a very balanced view of the approach that.
To
Yes,
add,
please. Yes.
just before start of the session, Kavita and I were sharing notes, feedbacks about the same thing.
Right, that's wonderful that we're talking offline as well on this, and it's a topic that stimulates the intellect. Right, now, Shrikant, I would want to understand from you, when you moved into your role at Deutsche Business Group, how have you drawn from your long-standing experience in technology to then be able to create more agile, a customer, employee empowering processes, bring in organizational cohesiveness, more collaborative practices? How have you leveraged technology to then, bring in workforce management, better practices for workforce management, basically?
I think I'll take that in two parts, right? I mean, the first part is what did we change in terms of processes? I think we're operating in what we're calling agile at scale right now. And that basically means technology folks, business folks, everybody is embedded into the same organization in terms of doing things in an iterative fashion, right? That's not, saying it is very easy, but actually getting business folks to IT has been agile for a long time, but the business has not. So I think what we've done is we've kind of cross-bred the teams into one consolidated setup, and then we're driving all of our transformations in an agile fashion. And that has taken quite a bit of work in terms of business having to understand technology, technology having to understand business, so on and so forth. But having said all of this, I think things are starting to come together very, very well for us. And I think all organizations probably need to head that way at some point or the other. Coming to the second part of your question, organizational change, right? I mean, it's important to understand that the skills we had yesterday are not the skills we need tomorrow. I think there is a big, big change and transformation that is currently underway. Like, for example, what we're looking at is we're looking at what we call learning experience platforms. We're talking about not only learning content platforms, but learning experience platforms.
Right.
I mean, we've introduced one into our organization where we're really looking at something which is similar to a Netflix for learning, right? Tailored learning for individuals to take us to where that end state needs to be. It's not just about my whims and fancies about what I want to learn. We're trying to merge that organizationally with what the organization needs. And basically being able to match these two together to get us to what we need 5 years from now. So transformation of the organizations to skills, I think we have a huge key deliverable that we have, which is called skill-based workforce planning.
Right.
This is not about individuals, it's not about numbers, it's about what the future trends are and where we would need our workforce to be as we get to the future. I think these are two separate questions, but actually they're intertwined in a lot of ways as we go into the
Absolutely.
future.
I think you touched upon something very relevant, because even the World Economic Forum says that 50% of the workforce today will have reskilling and even multi-skilling requirements by 2025. That's a very interesting point, and I'd like to build that up with Mr. Simli. Mr. Simli, like Shrikant said, you need new set of skills for the new business challenges that are emerging. So how are you dealing with the skill deficit within your organization, especially in the government sector? It is quite stark. How do you deal with it? How does it impact your innovation agenda and the response time of your IT organization?
Very, very pertinent, Sneha. I think if I put it like this, saying that whether you are from media or someone from our colleague here from industry or I am from government side, what are the two biggest challenges we are facing as of now is the first is the demand, right? How do we meet the demand and expectation? whatever I do a passport service, somebody is doing GST, somebody is making a product and portfolio, right? The second factor is the democratized way that we call democratization. So now, if you look the bigger part of the global economy, these are the two factors which is playing a very important role, the demand and democratization. The second very factor when we talk about technology is, again, if you see the global phenomena, the mobility of workforce and the mobility of workplace. How do you deal with another these two factors? And if I take these three, four factors together, then where do we focus? We must focus on three H. First H is the hyper automation, second H is the hyperscaler, and third H is the hybrid. This hybrid era is going to continue for some time to come. Whether I am talking about on-prem or cloud, whether I am talking about physical plus digital, whether I am talking about service provider and service seeker, whether I am talking about government and industry collaborating together. And lastly, I must say that I think ICT, if I see myself and the experience which we have traveled through, ICT today, if I see, I don't look as a mere information and communication technology, but can we imbibe a factor of in the form I means innovation, C means collaboration, and T means transformation. If you can transform that ICT into this part of ICT, I think opportunities are enough. We are realizing at the government, we are developing different business model. How do you deliver these three factors from that ICT to this IT? So
Right.
that's how I put it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simli. I understand that skill deficit is a challenge for every industry, but in the government sector, it becomes more pronounced. There are big techs and fintechs luring talent away from traditional companies, and that's a real perennial problem that organizations face. Now, Mr. Pandey, like we were discussing with Kavita, and I'd like to build up further on that point, customer experience is the next battleground for organizations. Most organizations understand that, but then they really don't know how to go about it. They struggle with all the mammoth amounts of data that they've collected on customers, but they really don't know how to make sense of that data and come up with proper personalized offerings for customers and to be able to service the customers when and how they need it at the on the channel that they need it. So customer experience is a big pain point for organizations today, and also one area which creates a lot of friction because customers today vote with their feet. So this, like I said earlier, is a domain that is new to the CIOs. How do you think CIOs can move closer to their business by helping them understand the customer better, the real know your customer kind of an agenda? How can CIOs drive that, and how can they take that outside an approach to customer experience, customer service?
Very fascinating question, first of all. Really fascinating. And I would love to go on and on about it, but I will take the right kind of time. Don't worry about that. So first of all, India is a really diverse country. We are the youngest population across. We are youngest now, and we are going to overtake China in terms of population. If I speak about the internet reach, the mobile reach, it is the highest. If I see about the active internet users, and if we see us as a country, right, we will be the third highest population in the world. So these are the kind of data, these are the kind of factors which are actually making India, the way things are shifting in India, and where consumer and customer is the king. And why it is king? First of all, people are comfortable in their own skin. Now vernaculars need to be developed. It's not that you have to speak in English, you have to speak in Hindi. You can go to any language, you can go to
The
any
Bharat
dialect.
that is driving business for most organizations now,
Yes.
not just India.
So these are the, so that is why I was saying that I can go on and on about it, right? So the way market has changed, it's about that what best personalization. So a consumer, she's like that, I need it in my own way, I need it to be customized for myself, and I need it anywhere, anytime, right? So with 10 minutes delivery by apps right now, it has become like I want it immediate. So these are the behaviors and the patterns which we have to study, and that is where I see a challenge, first of all, that we don't have the right kind of data even to address it. And I think the most basic thing which organizations like all of us can do is that we have to have the structured data at our place. Second is around that when you are thinking about consumers, when you are thinking about customer, get into that journey. just feel that journey, there is a entire science and methodology behind it, where you do consumer journey mapping, then do value proposition, then do value recommendation. So these are the few takeaways where you have to think like marketer, not as a technology person. Think like a salesperson, not as a technology person.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Pandey. Now, Mahua, in the financial services industry, the CIO needs to act more like a, a startup founder. They need to be agile. They need to think of test fast, fail fast methodologies. But while they try to do that, it's difficult to have that speed of a digital native company, that mindset, especially when things like fighting with the status quo, the organizational inertia, the politics, all of those things come into play, the different layers of bureaucracy. So how do you think CIOs should navigate that? What are some of the frameworks and approaches that they should adopt to deal with all of these things?
So that, I think, is a common problem across organization, not just financial services.
That's true.
Bringing in any change is probably the most difficult thing. And it is, I would say, for any organization to be innovative, to be having path-breaking technology, it is empowering the CIO. It's rather than what the CIO does. The CIO needs to be empowered to make decisions which are better, make decisions based on vision. I'm not saying that they can do it independently, but traditionally CIOs were not empowered enough. Like if you go back maybe 15 years, CIOs sometimes were reporting into the COO. Gone are those days.
Yes.
Today CIOs are far more empowered, and I think that says how developed an organization is, or how forward thinking the organization is. In our case, for example, right now, the CEO is officiating as the CIO till we find the next one. So that's the importance level.
Right. Thank you so much, Mahua. I think that's a perfect segue into our wrap-up round. And if we could start it with you, quick closing comments on how do you think CIOs can adopt the adaptive network of leadership? How can they break away from the command and control mindset to a more collaborative leadership style within an organization? How do you think they can go about doing that?
So I will go back to your first question. Networking, that's the only way we can do it, because today this chain of command and all of that hardly works. Forget about your peers. Even within your team, how much of chain of command works, right? It is all about networking. It is all about influencing. Storytelling can't say enough about it. And it's all about hearing and listening well, because there might be somebody sitting much down below in the organization who has the best ideas, especially in technology. Who knows technology better than Gen Z?
Right.
I learn it from my daughter.
So democratizing the innovation agenda of your company.
Yep,
Right, absolutely. Some
absolutely.
great points there.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Simli, would you like to build up on that?
Yeah,
Very quick closing comments.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as far as CIOs are concerned, I think CIO is no more as part of a backroom kind of a decision maker. They should be part of the boardroom, and they should take the major decision in terms of business, in terms of people, in terms of process, and in terms of policy. So CIO has to play a very big role coming forward, and what I foresee, it is already happening, especially in the government sector. If I can see now most of the CIOs or CTOs, they are playing a very big role in terms of decision making, in terms of policy call, in terms of HR call, because IT is no more alone a IT, no, it's a business driver. So that's how we should
Absolutely.
put it. Thank
That's
you.
a great thought. Kavita?
So just to add on to that, yes, the CIOs can not just be order takers anymore. They need to wear many hats, as we said, that we need to be storytellers, we need to be taking HR decisions, not helping HR or making the right investments. So yes, so that's the closing notes I would like to leave with.
Right.
Somewhere we have to move away from overuse of words like digital transformation, agility, and strategy. It is so much overused without any much meaning to it, and that is a challenge which I consistently face in my job as well. So I think we have to somewhere get into really specifics, roll up our sleeve, and empower our team in the right way to
Right, so I
make
think
it
it
happen.
starts with technology, culture, trust, culture, and then technology.
So,
I think
so
that
people
would be
just use these words, but there is no substance behind it at
Yes,
times,
I
and which
remember I
find
was at
challenging.
Dr. Ramcharan's masterclass this month, and he said digital transformation is a wrong mindset. It's about the culture transformation, which is then a logical extension to all the technology projects that happen. Right.
Very apt.
Mr. Shrikant?
Yeah, I'd just like to say one thing, one example, right? I mean, I was working with the head of HR, and I was in a meeting in Frankfurt. He said, "This is what I want to achieve. Can you tell me the target architecture for this?" So you really need to be a seat at the table in terms of saying, start with, can technology really deliver this for me?
Right.
That's the level of collaboration you need.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I think with the collective wisdom and experience that we had on stage, I think all the knowledge and wisdom and the experience that you shared just spilled over like pearls on a table. Thank you so much, everyone. And like they say in most organizations, three things happen on their own: friction, silos, and underperformance. For everything else, you need a strategy. And the CIOs have traditionally been problem solvers. They've solved technology problems, and now they're up to the task of solving business problems. They have a natural proclivity towards solving business problems, getting into the thick of things, and making the job easier for their business peers. I think they are now up to that task, and may the force be with all of you. Thank you so much, everyone.